can stop you from being deceived. If you try to find out what's up my sleeve, you can figure out what a bag of means. If you try, nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can stop you from being deceived. Nothing can.
Mathematical people. So tonight we got an absolute schmacker of a show lined up. We are getting things together. We're gonna get S-Craft on. You sent them an invite already?
That's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Okay, and then that's what's up. You at the shop getting it in, listening to the show. That's what's up, man. We appreciate that.
No doubt. Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. Every week, I don't know what it is, man. We'll be talking then, you know, I'll see who's coming on. Then after a while, it just, you know, it'll freeze, and appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. It'll freeze up and I can't see, you know, who's getting on with us. So yeah, man. So yeah, I sent that to him. So be waiting. But yeah, man, it was crazy, and it was interesting because as I started playing with them reels on TikTok, I did a transformation cut on my guy, and he had the most views of any TikTok that I've done to date, which was kind of cool, man. But yeah, man, super solid guy, man. What's up, D? What it do? That's my homeboy. He from the town. He out in Fort Worth.
Okay, what's going on? Fort Worth, the local bar. What's going on?
What's going on? So yeah, man, I had to get myself together, man. Yeah, that was a hitter, man.
Most definitely. Yeah. No way to ever prepare for that. No way. But making a segue, I want to ask you a question, man. Barbara Pink, how has the back to school rush been treating you down there?
So actually, we haven't started yet. Nope. They start next week.
Next week.
Yep, they start next week. So yeah. Yep.
What you guys have planned? Are y'all doing anything in the shop, or are you linking up with anybody?
Got one program. Got a client, and he's pastor, so you know, he works with the program within the school, so be doing some stuff with him. But you know, I definitely we're supposed to sit down. Some of the barbers we're supposed to sit down in September and have a serious conversation, man, because it's needed. We don't, you know, for it to be a small town, we're not doing enough collectively. You know what I mean?
Barber is the town period.
The barbers in the town, in terms of, you know, back to school. It's a couple doing something here and there, but you know, you're stronger in numbers. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, man. So
that's the conversation I want. Once we get S-Craft on and get his insight with that, and so on and so forth. But that's a big topic that we've been discussing a lot here, and well, at least I know a few barbers that I've talked to about it here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you. I feel like we do a lot, but we do nothing. You know, we align ourselves with the church, or we're aligning ourselves with this and that, but as barbers, haven't moved in unison.
Right.
Even letting other people steer the wheel of something that barber should be steering the wheel for. Not saying that nobody should oversee it but a barber, but who has the idea of how to make something like that flow than a barber? You know what I mean?
Right. No doubt. So yeah, it's because like I told you, like everybody here, you got separate barbershops, but nobody has a shop feel every chair, you know. And so for us to be able to come together and really rock together, we could do so much more, you know, together than we do apart. you know. And so that's what we really got. We got to get to, man, because it's really pathetic, man. It really is. And I'll take my blame on my end, you know, where my shortcomings are. But, you know, and maybe that's, you know, really leading the charge, man, saying, hey, we need to sit down, man. Let's, you know, because small town, we all know each other, you know what I mean? So it's just one of the things.
Do you feel like the back to school cuts is something that's a barber's priority?
No, not necessarily. And see, to be honest with my schedule, I'm not necessarily big on the back to school cuts, to be honest. But, you know, we get a lot from the community. So if we give it back, I don't care if it's school supplies, you know what I mean? Whatever it is that we can do to do our part for our community, I don't care what it is. I'm not really big, because what happens with a lot of back to school, you know, you're accustomed to your schedule. You know, you got kids coming in and you're doing free cuts, you know, heads aren't clean, and you're going through a whole lot of things a lot of times. So to me, I'm not just that crazy about it, but I will do it if it's something in terms of the greater good and the barbers want to do it. But like I said, it could be school supplies, backpacks, you know what I'm saying? Whatever we can do to make a dent in our community and give back the same way our community gives to us. So you know what? You want me to get off and go to the page and see maybe if he's trying to contact us on the page?
Yeah, if you, yeah. You know.
Okay. I'm gonna sign off, and then I'm gonna come right back. I'm gonna hit you just to see if I need to communicate, because I've sent a couple to him. So let me check, and I'm gonna hit right back.
All right, bet. Well, look, while Asha's taking care of business, making sure we can get Ashcraft on, you know, people got families. It's still the middle of the week. Sometimes these things happen. I'm interested in knowing, is there anybody that want to join? Let's talk about these back to school cuts. Let's talk about the condition of barbering as it pertains to back to school cuts. I've got my local kids mixed in with the adults, so it's a setting is good. But my regular kiddos that I've seen have been great. Yeah, a lot of people do it that way. They mix the two just to make sure that they don't overwhelm themselves. But I I mean, it depends on where you are, right? It depends on where you are and who's overseeing it, what efforts they're putting into to oversee it. If there's more barbers involved with it to make it a collective effort, yeah. But when it can be difficult. It can be overwhelming. It could be definitely not in good taste for the barbers that get invited to it, because a lot of times they invite you to these events, but they have no idea what the needed conditions are to service that many people, especially kids. So you somewhere tucked off in a hot space with a chair that don't go up, don't go down, it don't spin, with a table that's 2.5 inches above your knee, trying to service everybody kid, and then they haven't made it clear to the parents what the expectations are. They haven't made it clear to the parents what the okays are, what's going to be acceptable, what's not going to be acceptable. They ain't done none of that. So you kind of walking into a blind situation with that. It don't matter what. Every time I've ever done a back to school event, it don't matter what I was told up front it was going to be, or what I was told up front it was going to be the expectation. Every single time I've done one, I've walked into a situation where it was blindsided with all these other things that weren't the best conditions for what it was that they were trying to accomplish. But oftentimes they don't really take that. They don't take their cues from the barbers. They take their cues from people who orchestrated events, or people who do networking events and all these other things, or church members or church leaders or whatever. And it's just, it's something else. The man of the hour, what's going on? Let's get Ash back on here, and we bring you back up, bring you up, and we can get this thing cracking. How you been doing tonight? On real fast. Invite, and then let's send S-Craft. All right, there go Ash. He just jumped in. I just invite. 1 second. There you go. Background.
What's good? Mr. S. Dot. How you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How about
Man,
yourself?
I'm doing great. Sorry about the miscommunication, man.
Hold on one second. Let me get these in. Can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. For some reason I thought it was the other channel, but we're good.
It's all good. It's all good. That was on me, man. So
man, first and foremost, welcome to the space. We thank you so much for being here. You could be anywhere else in the world, just like everybody tuning in right now, but you elected to spend a few minutes with us. Let us throw some questions that you have, engage in some conversation, and see, where things go. For the people who don't know, we're definitely gonna let Mr. Dot. We're gonna call you Mr. Dot. I just feel like it's fitting.
That's cool.
Explain who he is and kind of put himself out there, but I want you to know that what you're about to get right now is a taste of the man behind the blurry. I thought about that before I got on here.
So before you start, also introduce myself. And Shy, me and you. I've been communicating with you. I'm Osh the Barber. I'm out of Champaign, Illinois.
Okay.
And that's my boy Shy. Go ahead and give it to him, Shy.
I don't want to talk. I'm here to listen. I want to hear.
Okay. So yeah, let's get it rolling, man. Let's everybody's here for you, man. So tell us a little bit about you. Give us like a little short bio and maybe some things that we don't, those of us that have been following you for a while may not know about S. Dot.
Okay. So I'm 44 years old. I've been cutting hair since I was 13 years old. Basically, whenever I was 13 years old, around that time, I was a wild young man, and I'd be out on the street smoking a blunt, cutting hair on the corner, stuff like that. Kind of turned my mother's garage into a barber shop. Whenever I was about 19 years old, I gave my life to the Lord and realized, a lot of that stuff, selling and all that had to change. So basically, I was like, what can I do to make money that's legal? I went, and started working a few different jobs. There was, outside manual labor, and I was like, this ain't for me, man. I'm too pale. This Florida sun, man, get me burnt like a lobster, and I don't get tan. It just gets red and then, peels off and red again. So I was miserable. So I was like, I got to do something. And I didn't even think about cutting hair, honestly. It was just something that I did for my friends and family and, stuff like that. Well, I was praying about it. I was like, God, I don't know what to do. I made all this money selling drugs and now I had a daughter at that time, so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to raise her and, pay for, formula and diapers and all these things, trying to, just work in a regular job. Cause I think I was working a job, and back then minimum wage was like $4.25 an hour. And so I worked 2 weeks, man, hard work. And my check was like $130 something after taxes. And I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. So, and I understand why people, want to go back into the streets and do what they got to do, to sometimes it's, you just want to make a living. You want to take care of your family. And as I prayed about it, I just felt like God, said, like to Moses, what's in your hand, And I was like, this is what I have. These are the gifts that I have or whatever. And I kind of talked about, the clipper or whatever. And it just so happened that as I went to barber school, drove past this barber school, I went in and it just worked, man, that they were actually taking people into class at that time. And they said, we can sign you up right now. We're starting a whole new semester. And they had the whole financial aid and everything worked out. So basically, I made the decision to really cut hair and to be serious about it. So I would go to school from early in the morning till, probably about 5 or 6. And then whenever I got home, I would cut in my garage till probably 2, 3 in the morning, get right back up, be, in Fort Myers, which was about 45 minutes from my house. had to be there at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So that was just, man, my grind to, you know, I had a daughter. So had to work, you know, throughout the night cutting hair in my garage just to go ahead and be able to pay for daycare, stuff like that.
Okay.
So anyways, so worked my way through barber school, got my license. First day in a barber shop, I was at go ahead.
What age is this?
Now that's like about 19, 20 years old. Yeah. So what happened, my Uncle Ray had a barber shop in our hometown, and I already had set up that I could go work for him. So my first day in the shop, just taking walk-ins, and of course I had my own clientele that I built up in the community, you know, that was coming to my house. But I was still not charging, you know, the full prices, you know, that the barbershop was charging.
Right.
So my first day in the shop, I made like $350 in a day, and I was like, and this is, you know, over 20 years ago. So I'm like, you know, so I was real happy about that, and I said, okay, you know, this will work. And thankfully, God bless, man. And back then we didn't have appointments; we just had walk-ins, and it was probably around $8 a head at that time. And and there again, it's about 20 years ago. So what happened? Literally, I would have 10 people sitting there waiting for me in the morning, and obviously the first one was happy, the 10th one wasn't too happy. So, you know, those guys started making some noise and was, you know, frustrated that they had to wait all day. So back then, I said, I tell you what, if you want, we'll go ahead and do a VIP appointment. I got a notepad right here. I'll just write down the times. $20, get you a VIP spot.
Okay.
So 20 years ago, I was making $20 a head when it was at you know, about $8 a cut at that time. So what would happen is, you know, at first there was some people that was like, now there was another shop down the street that was charging about $5 a haircut. So we were already expensive for our town, right? But basically, they said, you know, I barely want to pay $8. You think I'm gonna pay $20? I said, well, then you can sit here all day and wait. I don't mind. I'm just giving you an option. And then you had those other people that were just like, you mean all I have to do is pay $20 and I can come back later, you know, at the appointed time? I was like, absolutely. And basically at that time, that's whenever I shifted. And every 30 minutes, it didn't matter if you were getting a lineup, if you were getting a fade, just a haircut and beard, designs, all that stuff. I would fit them in a 30-minute window, and I had $20. So I was booked out, you know, from morning till the evening. Thursday was my late night. And sometimes I'll be booked from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 2 o'clock at night, every 30 minutes, man. And I might stop to grab a burger for 5 minutes and get right back to it. But so I knew at that point, without a tip, I was averaging about $40 an hour, and that was like 20 years ago. And
Wow.
So basically, shortly after that, I opened up my own barbershop. Just going to give you a brief, you know, review about myself, but opened up my own barbershop. Go ahead.
Originally, I'm sorry. Once you started this, what town? Because I heard you say Fort Myers, so you weren't in Tampa. So where's the hometown?
So I'm originally from a small town called LaBelle, Florida. It's right outside of, right outside of Fort Myers, Florida, about 30, 45 minutes. And basically in my town, it's a real country town. However, I was raised in the hood, so I was the only white boy, you know, chasing cars down, selling crack, robbing people, doing all that crazy stuff. And anyhow, so that's where I was at, LaBelle, Florida. And anyways, that's where I started cutting at. So through all this time, I got married, had a wife, and owned a barber shop, owned a hair salon, different things like that. And then I really got to a point in my life where even though I was doing well, you know, in the hair business, I just hated it. I was miserable, and I was questioning why. And as I was questioning why, I just always seen myself, you know, pastoring. I wanted to be in ministry. And I thought, man, you know, to be in full-time ministry, to get paid to do my passion, and that's ministering to people. I was like, that's the greatest job on the planet, So the more I started focusing on the ministry side of things, the more I hated the barbering side of things. And anyway, so the time came where we shifted, and I felt like God called me to start a church. We started a church. God blessed it. It's still the largest church in that area to this day. And then, at that point, we just began to basically have like an apostolic ministry where we would go into new cities. I don't mind working, man. So and I connect with new people all the time. So basically, we'd go into a new city, start connecting with people, build relationships, plant a church, raise somebody up, turn it over to them or whatever. So that's actually what brought us to Tampa about 7 years ago, because we were pastoring different churches. Felt like God called me to Tampa. We were here in Tampa for about 6 months. And of course, whenever you walk away from the ministry, you walk away from all finances and everything else. So we would raise up a pastor in house, turn it over to him. Once we got, all the foundation laid and all that good stuff, systems in place, we turn it over to this person, and then we would move to the next city to do it again. So we felt like God was calling us to Tampa. And I just assumed that, hey, we're going to go ahead and move to Tampa. We can always fall back on our barber's license, right? My wife does hair as well. She's a stylist. And anyway, so we can go to a new city just as long as it's in Florida, and we can start cutting, and make money to provide for our family. So we moved to Tampa, not knowing anyone, came into the shop. She went into a salon, and basically, we started doing hair, started connecting with people. To make a long story short, I said about 6 months after we were here, I said, you know what, let's go ahead and start doing some interest meetings. We called them house parties, and basically we were just, having interest meetings where we were telling people about the vision of our church and what we felt like God wanted us to do in Tampa. And man, like the first Sunday, we had like 30 something people show up. And then after that, it was like 40 something, and then like 50 something. And then in my house, we had like almost 100 people that's crammed in my house. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. We're about to take off, and God has always blessed us, man. So I thought this was about to take off, and we were going to be pastoring a church in Tampa. And basically what happened, we couldn't find a building to save our lives, man. And I was complaining to God for a little bit. And I recognized that it seemed like all the doors for the ministry, as far as getting a building and stuff like that, were closing. But on the barbering side of things, man, doors were opening up like crazy. I was doing a lot of podcasts and YouTube interviews, and my name started popping a little bit, in the barber industry. And God was putting me around the right people at the right time, and building those relationships. And basically, like I said, I was starting to complain to God, like, man, here we are. We just left a 2,000 member ministry. Thought we were going to be there for the rest of our life, and things were good. And we had influence and blah, blah, blah. And here we are. You say move to Tampa. I moved to Tampa. I start this church, and now, like it's a flop. We can't even get a building to take these people to. And as I'm complaining to God, I almost felt like God said, like I told you to move to Tampa. Who told you to start a church? And I was like, God, that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I've been planting churches and pastoring and things like that. So yeah, man, I just I was like, so then what are you doing? And, I feel like God, that he's basically positioned me in the barber community. Because people need Jesus, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that he's given me influence and a platform so that I can share my faith with people. I'm not going to kick your door down and shove it all in your face. However, I'm going to be me. And if you got questions, and many people do, and it leads to, it leads to us having conversations about Jesus and about my life, and just the blessing of God on my life. And basically, I feel like that God also brought me to headlines in 245 to put me around influencers. so that I could influence influencers. So even for those that may not have believed in God, because I'm there and we've had conversations behind the scenes, now all of a sudden there's paradigm shifts taking place, and now, you know, they start sharing, you know, things that are happening in their life and God moments and things like that. And you know, so that's where we're at right now, man. But I have a wife of 21 years. August 17th, we'll be celebrating 21 years, and I have 4 beautiful daughters: Jasmine, Jalen, Jaden, and Jada. Jasmine's 24. Jalen's about to be 20. Or actually, yeah, she's about to be 20. I got a 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. So
let me ask you. So I've watched you closely for some time now. So, you know, in terms of your priority, it's God first. Your family, you know, cutting hair comes behind that, and you steadfast. Seems like you're steadfast. At least me looking, you know, from afar, you steadfast in terms of that priority list, right? At what point, when you grab those clippers early on, at what point, because you made those moves and you knew if all else failed, you and your wife, you know, have your license and you could pick up. At what point did you know that God had gifted you with the blessing of cutting hair to the degree that you could move and still be cool? Because I got to be honest with you. I've been reaching out to you, bro, for over a year, maybe a year and a half. And God does things the way he wants to do them. Everything about time. And you're here today for a reason, right? And the way everything worked out. You are, and me being a barber, you are one of my top 5 barbers easily. I would like to come and get in your chair and pay the ticket. You know, you don't just cut hair. You are a true artist, and every barber is not that. At what point did you know you truly had a gift and it just wasn't cutting hair?
So, and it just wasn't cutting hair?
I mean,
or
in terms of your ability to cut, right? But some people cut hair and they make money, but you truly have a gift. You display on social media a true gift. Everybody's not gifted. Some people work hard at it. You have to work hard, but you have a true gift.
You know, I really feel like I never had to work hard at it. Honestly, I really do believe it's a gift from God. And obviously, I believe that it's a gift to put me in the right circles. You know, I feel like that we all have, you know, giftings that give us platforms and influence and put us around the right people so that we can be on mission and you know, represent Christ in those circles or whatever, and just bring that change. The Bible says the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our God. And I'm a king and a priest unto God, man, and he put me in a kingdom, you know, it's a sphere, and it's that barber realm. And I believe that he's giving me authority because I love him and because he knows what I'll do with it. And anyway, so I look back and I say that years ago when I started cutting hair, 32 years ago now, basically I was 13 years old, and there was some kids that they had some busted haircuts. And I mean, I recognized it at 13. I was like, my God, where'd you get your hair cut at? You know, and they said at the barbershop. So I said, you paid for that? You know, like, and I said, I could do better than that. And I ain't never touched a pair of clippers in my life. And I was 13 years old. Well, the mom ended up saying, all right. And she, without me knowing, she went and bought a pair of clippers, you know, the little old school walls with the white and black, you know, I don't know if y'all remember those, but corded. And she gave them to me. And she said, here, you say you could do better. See what you can do. And anyways, I did better. And the reason being is because I've always been artistic. I've always drawn as a kid, you know. So I really feel like people that aren't artistic are going to struggle in cutting hair, because I believe it's an art. I mean, if you can't draw a straight line on a piece of paper, how you going to draw a straight line on someone's head? You know, if you can't draw a little, you know, nice little symmetrical curve, how you going to do someone's C cup? You know, so So for me, I've always been artistic. I've loved details, and I thrived in art class, you know, and when we're talking about gradients, you know, that's how I see a fade. So anyways, I guess being artistic, if I can see it in my head, I feel like I can put it on other people's head. And I remember when I was in barber school, somebody said something in front of our teacher, and I said, "Oh, I could do that." And she's like, "You know, you're so cocky." And I said, "I'm not cocky, I'm confident." You know what I mean? There's a difference. I'm not trying to boast about it. I'm telling you, I know I can do it. If I can see it in my head, I can put it on their head. And that's just where I'm at. A lot of people, you know, we know they like to hate on color enhancement and hair fibers and all that stuff. Why do I love it? Because I'm not a barber, really. I'm an artist. You know what I'm saying? I love anything that I can use, man, to make the cut look better.
Right.
I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? So I love color. I love hair fibers. I love that. And anyways, so yeah, I feel like it was when I was 13 years old, the first time I cut, and it was better than the barbers that had license and they were a lot older than me. I was like, man, you know, like, I can do this. And then I had a friend of mine, he moved down from New York, this Puerto Rican cat, and he asked me when it was probably, dude, it had to be at least 25 years ago or more. He said, "Hey, have you ever heard of double edge?" I said, "No, I ain't never heard of no double edge." And he said, "Right now, man, it's the hottest thing in New York and this and that." And I was like, "What is it?" And he said, "Basically, you do the edge and then you just do a line behind it. It's a double edge." And anyway, so I started doing double edges on them all the time. And in that small town, people were like, "Dang, that's hot. What is that?" So then he came every single week. And I said, "Hey, what if I take that double edge and then I come off of it with some crazy design and we make like a double edge design?" And he was like, "Dude, do whatever you want to." And I've got pictures. I want to find them. I have a whole photo album from probably 25, 30 years ago of just designs. And like I did a spider on this dude's head with a web and all that stuff. And so whenever I was doing that, you know, at like probably 15 to 17 years old, it was just getting a lot of attention. And yeah, I knew that I was different, at least for that small town. And I'm going to tell you right now, you know, when you're in a small town, you can be a big fish in a small town. And then maybe whenever you go to a place like Tampa, I know when I first moved here, I didn't realize how good I was, I guess. I thought I was good. And I always wondered, like, okay, a fade's a fade. How can it get any blurrier? Once it's blurry, how can it get any blurrier? But I was kind of nervous moving here to Tampa because I thought, man, it's a big city. Florida's got some barbers, man. I don't know if y'all know, but we got some barbers here.
Yeah.
And good barbers to me were like a dime a dozen, you know. So then I came to Tampa, there was a little fear, like, man, I might not measure up, you know. And as soon as I started cutting, people just started taking notice. And now, mind you, I wasn't in a shop for about 12 years because I was full-time ministry for 12 years before moving to Tampa. So I took a break. Now I'd cut like, you know, my nephew and some friends and family stuff just to make sure I still had it, you know, and just cut every now and then, you know. But when I moved here, started getting attention. Well, one day, Basio came into the shop, and he was at a different location. He was still cutting quite a bit at that time, and he ended up moving over to our location. And he saw me cut, and he was like, and there at that time I didn't know Basio. I didn't know about no YouTube barber tutorials. I didn't know about Jeezy, or I didn't know there was a whole barber thing on YouTube.
Right.
I never had to look because I've been cutting so long, you know. And anyway, so, and everybody was like, "Man, have you ever, you know, like, have you heard of Chris Basio?" And I'm like, "I have no clue who that is." "What? You ain't never watched him?" So anyways, he comes in and he sees me cut, and he was like, "Bro, you're a beast, man." And I was like, "I appreciate it." And he said, "How long you been cutting?" And I told him, and he said, "How come I don't know you? Like, I know everybody pretty much in the barber industry. And if you've been cutting that long, I feel like I would have come across you or whatever." And I said, "Honestly, I've taken 12 years off and just got back in." And he's like, "You can cut like that? You ain't cut in 12 years or been in a shop or whatever?" And I was like, it's a gift, man. It's a gift from God. And so then what's cool is he's like, hey, I want you to be my barber. All right, cool. So I started cutting him, and he would always say, why aren't you on Instagram or YouTube or anything? And I was like, I'm old school, man. And he's the one that said, you know, I've built a multi-million-dollar business off of social media and the influence that it gave me. And he said, you need to get on Instagram. So I just got on Instagram because Basio, you know, recommended it. And then what's cool is I wasn't really trying to post anything or really even trying to grow it, honestly. But every time he would sit in my chair, he would go live and he would say, you know, my barber's a beast, you know. And then people was like, it was kind of like, who's the man that cuts the man's hair,
Right.
you know, type of deal. And all of a sudden, man, my numbers started growing. Every time he went live, I'd get like 1,000 new followers. I was like, praise the Lord, you know, like, and then there again, just right place, right time, God's plan. And it just started working out. Still, people are always like, man, you should have so many more followers and whatever. And honestly, I don't get my value from followers. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who follows and all that good stuff. But, you know, I get my value from, you know, the one who paid the price for my life, you know what I'm saying? So anyhow, that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. It's amazing listening to your story, watching a lot of people comment. Everybody is having the same reaction to it because you don't get these types of stories from the barbering industry a lot. A lot of times you get the same parallels in the beginning of the story, but not a lot of people can really dive into the details about the transition, right?
Yeah.
That you were in the industry and giving your life over to Christ. I'm interested to backtrack a little bit. I want to know more about that 1 foot in, foot out, your road to Damascus experience, because I believe anybody who's made that transition with both feet are planted firmly on one side of walking in unison with the Lord definitely had to go through some type of work experience, because we all are presented with that challenge at some point in our life. I would love to know what, of course, if it's something that you know you don't mind sharing, I would love to know what and when, at what point in your life did you come across that obstacle, and what helped you make that transition?
Okay. So I was raised in church.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have pastors all in my family. I was the black sheep. Even when we got together at Thanksgiving, man, everybody was, you know, serving the Lord. And I was like the drug dealer coming in, smelling like pot and high as can be, and pants sagging and all that stuff. And they would always just be like, I'm praying for you. Hey, you keep on praying, brother. Keep praying, you know. And anyways, to be honest with you, like I had a rough childhood. My stepfather, he was kind of abusive, physically. He sexually molested my twin sister for years. So it was just not the best, you know, like type of environment. And I always thought, if I have a kid, I ain't gonna be like that. I'm gonna be a good dad. My real father left when I was like 1 year old. So never knew him, never heard his voice. So then there again, my stepfather came in and there was all kind of mess there. So I just knew, I always knew I wanted kids. I knew I wanted to be a dad, you know. But I knew that I was going to be a good one. You know, I want to be a good dad. And to make a long story short, because when I was in church, it was very legalistic. It was very religious. The church I grew up in, if you wore a wedding ring, you were going to hell. If you wore shorts, you were going to hell. If a dude had long hair, he was going to hell. A chick had short hair, she was going to hell. So I was like, dang, I'm going to hell. I mean, I already know where I'm going. Like, if you're going to hell for wearing shorts and a ring and a watch,
Right.
I'm going to hell, you know? And so if you know you're going to hell, it's like, might as well have fun, you know? So like, I was evil, man. You know, I did people very dirty. But, you know, just out there having premarital sex, partying, living it up or whatever. And whenever I was 19 years old, I had a daughter. Chick told me she was pregnant. And at first I was like, it ain't mine. I just met you, you know. And she was a black and Puerto Rican chick, you know, and obviously I'm a white dude. And she's like, it is yours. I ain't been with nobody in a while, da, 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 whatever. And whenever she was born, she came out, which is a God thing. It's so funny because I guess it just took that. Because like I said, I was acting like it wasn't mine. And then when she was born, she was real pale white with blue eyes. She had real curly hair though, and it was kind of like a strawberry blonde, reddish color. And as soon as I looked at her, I was like, because this chick didn't talk to white boys. She talked to, you know, black and Puerto Rican, stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, that's my kid. And I just fell in love with her. And I made a decision that day, like I'm gonna be a good dad to this girl. And I knew that I'm a what do you call it? I don't know, man. Whatever I do, I want to be the best at it. It's in my nature, right? If I'm cutting hair, I want to be the best. If I'm selling drugs, I want to be the kingpin. You know, if I'm serving the Lord, I want to be the best. And anyways, so
Yeah.
huh?
You're an ambitious man.
I am. It's just in me. So whenever I had her, I wanted to be the best father, and I knew in myself I could not be the father that she needed me to be without God in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, like if I get around the wrong crowd, I'll start being the wildest one in the whole group, you know. So I had to cut everybody off in that season of my life. And I gave my life completely to the Lord, and man, I just jumped in the Word, and anyway, so my Damascus Road experience really was having a kid and just wanting to be the best I could be, and I gave my life to the Lord, and I was like, listen, God, from this day forward, I sell out to you, and that was over, you know, it was like 24 years ago now, and anyway, sold out to the Lord. And because I throw myself into whatever I'm doing, man, I was fasting more days a week than I was eating. I was praying for hours every single day. I would read 20 chapters of the Bible every single day. And I just, at that time, I didn't, because I was raised legalistic and religious, I thought that my works is what's going to make God love me. So I was doing, like, do you love me now? And I eventually had an encounter with God. Just the grace and love of God, where he was like, son, there ain't nothing you can do to make me love you more or make me love you less. And I just had this encounter with God's love, and you know, that kind of changed my approach to how I minister to people. A lot of people always ask me, man, like, how do you minister to people in the shop? And I listen to them and their approach, and they want to preach to everybody, you know, and they want to say, hey, shop owner, you need to turn that rap off, and we need to play some Christian music, and y'all need to stop cussing around me, and they get real religious. My thing is, man, I just meet people where they're at, just what Jesus did, man. He loved the sinner. The Bible says he was a friend to the sinner. And I just try to be friendly with everybody. I try to love everybody, and just, you know, me loving people and building them up and encouraging them. I don't care who they are, what they've done. It gives me the opportunity just to love on them, and then I have that influence of speaking to their life. But anyways, yeah, so to answer your question, my Damascus Road experience was whenever my daughter was born, and I just knew I had to change my life, you know, to be the kind of father that I wanted to be and that she needed.
So
That's what's up.
You brought up, I want to stay right there for a second and tail into that it was a burning question in my mind once you kind of put the pieces together to give us a better picture of you. I definitely
Pastor Blends.
I would love to know, how are you handling because be it that you're a pastor as well as a barber, who now at this junction your barbering you're an influencer slash barber, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a little bit more your net that you way bigger, right? I'd love to know, being that you deal with so many personalities and so many different people from different walks of life, different aspects of life, and pastoring them in the chair and being a barber when they need a barber and being a friend when they need a friend and being an understanding ear, a listening ear, or this or that, and all these other energies pulling from you as an individual. Then on top of that, you have relatively big family as well, right? I'm dying to know what is S. Dot's way of maintaining your own peace, space, and sanity? How are you handling all of those different energies coming in and lending from you? And everything from what you said, you don't strike me as the type of person that turn many away. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You come across very, very genuine. You come across very inviting, and especially with your dedication to God, I would assume, right, and this is my own ignorance of assumption, that you're going to open a door for whatever person coming to, you're going to see the good in people first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you lending so much of yourself and still maintaining anything for you and more than you for your family?
That's a great question, and it can be very challenging. Basically, how I look at it is like spinning plates, man. Have you ever seen someone spinning plates before? So they got like, 6 poles with plates spinning on each one. Anyways, they're going around spinning these plates. And what I realized, if you spend too much time spinning one plate, there's a plate over here about to fall. So it's just getting into that rhythm of knowing what to touch, when to touch it. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be time for date night. Every Friday night is date night with my wife. You know what I'm saying? So I'll leave the shop early. If people want to, man, I got to get in. Well, I can get you in. We can come in early Friday morning, or we can come in sometime Saturday. I'll get you in. I'll make time for you. But I'm not staying past 6 o'clock on Friday because that's when my wife gets off. That's whenever I get off. And we do the same thing almost every Friday night. We got a place we like to go. We have a certain routine we like to do. And I know that, she is my first ministry above all, my wife, and then my children. So there's times that, I can get busy doing other things. And if I see my family starting to wobble a little bit, I need to go spend some time with that, and I do give myself to a lot of people. However, I have learned that I have to say no sometime too, Even Jesus himself pulled away from the people for the people. There was time he would tell his disciples, come on, we need to get alone, and just rest. And I feel like if the Son of God knew that he needed time of rest and to get alone there again, away from the people so he can recharge and come back to the people, we got to do the same thing. And I feel like, go ahead.
My wife gonna hear you, gonna get me in trouble.
It's important, man. It's important. So, and also, man, I try not to put too much on my plate. Whenever I was young, I was trying to do everything. And honestly, I went through a season of burnout, and where I didn't want to do anything anymore, and that's the problem. When you do so much to the point that you burn out, once you're burn out, you don't want to do anything. You're no longer effective to even do a handful of things. You don't want to do anything. And for me, I went through that season of burnout, and I had to learn, okay, I can't just give myself fully, to everybody. And I learned that we can't swing at everything that comes over the plate. We got opportunities all the time. And of course, whenever you have your vision and values and your core beliefs and all that stuff written down, and where you're going, obviously some opportunities come up, and okay, this aligns with my vision, my core values, and other things you're like, I'm not even wasting my time with that because I don't even gotta think about it. It doesn't line up. So I think that the more we define where we're going, who God has called us to, you know, just the vision and values and all those things, I feel like it helps me to understand, like, I don't have to do everything. I have to do what God's called me to do. And even Jesus, you know, there was a time, see, Jesus was called to the Jewish people at that time when he was here. And there was a Gentile woman who said, basically, Lord, my daughter, she is demon possessed. And he said, basically, what's that got to do with me? I'm not here for the Gentiles. I'm here for the Jews. Some people would take that as being rude, but he knew his purpose. He knew who he was sent to. And anyway, so with that being said, now, of course, she did say, you know, he kind of said, is it right to throw bread to the dogs? And she said, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. And because of her faith, Jesus, you know, blessed her or whatever. However, it does show us that he knew who he was called to. And I think that we have to understand we're not called to everybody. Who are we called to, you know? And I feel like in this season of my life, God has really, you know, like called me to the barbering community, you know? I have a wonderful pastor. He may even be watching tonight, who knows? But he always asks me, because once we kind of stepped down from pastoring and all that, I was like, you know what, we'll take our family to church and we'll show up and we're going to love people and we're going to support our pastor and we're going to do those things. But right now, God has called us to minister not just to the church, but to the barber community. And anyway, so he's always asking, man, when are you going to start serving? When are you going to do this and that? Like, I serve your vision. I serve your purpose by he wants to create a culture of worship. I'm in there, me and my family, we're on the front row, hands raised, worshiping God like we've lost our minds. I walk around and shake hands with people like I'm the pastor of the church, man, greeting everybody and just loving them. You know, also, you know, we give and support and different things like that. But I'm supporting your vision, but I don't need to have a title by my name to, you know what I'm saying, to serve your vision. And I know that God has called me to serve the barber community. That's kind of my ministry right now. So anyways, so when you know what you need to do and people come up and ask you, I used to be the guy that I would do everything because someone asked me to do it. Because that's the heart of God, man. We're just going to do everything for everybody. And I realized that there again, Jesus didn't even do that, you know, and I learned from his example. And if it aligns with the purpose that God has put me on this planet or in this season of my life, then I say yes. If it doesn't, I say no. And I'm not scared to say no. No is a beautiful word. And I think that we all need to learn how to say it more. Because if we say yes to everything, we're not giving all of our time to the thing that God has called us to, and it burns us out. We're not good for nothing. So like you said earlier, man, I do pour into a lot of people, but I pour into the right people, and I try to use wisdom on that, and I'm okay with saying no. And saying no has helped me. There again, if you're trying to meet with me, you know, I got to meet with you right now. Well, I can't meet with you right now because it's date night with my wife. That's a no. You know what I mean? And yeah, but my life's falling apart. Well, if I don't meet with my wife, my life might be falling apart, and then I'm good for nothing. You know what I mean? So I hope that makes sense.
It does.
I got a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just piggybacking because I just kind of had an epiphany, right? And it's talked about a lot. So as far as headliners, do you have any ownership in headliners?
So at this point, I do not have any ownership in headlines. Actually, headlines, there was a group of guys, Basio, Christian Perez, Danny. They actually come together and start opening up shops. It wasn't franchised or anything like that. Here recently, they have now come to a place where if you are a part of the team, and I think that if you have that connection or whatever, then they'll give you the opportunity to be a majority owner, where they might still get 5% of say the money that comes in from rent or whatever, and then you can open up your own Headlines Barbershop. And so that's something that I'm definitely interested in. And I was talking to Basio recently, and we were, you know, crunching numbers and all that stuff. And man, I'd like to have like 10 Headlines Barbershops, you know, at least.
But
And
because I'm going somewhere with
okay.
this. So being that, you know, your faith-based, and you guys been able to go to different churches, get them started, fall back. In order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower, in my belief. And a person at your stature in the game, you know, most guys want to run out and, you know, go grab a barbershop, you know, because it's like you said, it's about having that title. But you being humble enough to say, look, I know what it is that I do, and I know that I'm God has you know, put my steps together. So I'm just following his path, and when everything is right, I'll do what he tells me to do. But just at your stature, to be in a barbershop that you don't have ownership, I think says a lot about you. You know what I mean? Being able to cut for, you know, cut at $100 a head, no matter who gets in your seat, man, woman, or child. And just, again, having that status, man, I think that says a lot about you. And the fact that you know, you go to these churches and God put you in all these places to lead, and then you can fall back and still be humble enough to follow. I think that says a lot about you, bro.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Well, let me say this. You know, whenever I was pastoring these churches, I always desired, you know, there's so much power in understanding the position of that second chair. You know, everybody wants to be the man. Everybody wants the first chair. And because I have pastored churches and planted churches, I've always desired to have someone that wasn't trying to undermine me behind my back or take my position that God had called me to. Right. I was praying for a person that was okay with being the second man. Right. And that would raise my hands. You know, I mean, you see in the Bible where Moses, where the children of Israel was in a battle, and they realized that when Moses had his hands raised, the Jewish army or God's people would win, and they would overtake the enemy. But anytime Moses' hands got tired and he put his hands down, they noticed a pattern, you know, that all of a sudden now the enemy's overtaking. So whenever they noticed the correlation between his hands being raised and the victory taking place, and when his hands fell, the enemy would overtake them, they went and there was two people that stood next to him, set him down on a rock, and they just basically raised his hands, and I'm seeing, you know, his elbows probably resting on their shoulders, you know, and because his hands were raised, then they were able to obtain the victory. So in that situation, I always prayed for someone that would come and raise my hands, man. There was someone, it's funny because people are ambitious, you know, and a lot of times they'll come in and they'll support you and serve you and serve your vision because they're wondering, you know, they're trying to look for that open door to elevate themselves. Absolutely. And instead of the mission or the mandate or the purpose or whatever. So basically in that situation, whenever God put me in the position of barbering and put me around Basio and the team, I said, you know what? I can recognize, I believe that this is going to get real spiritual, but I believe that there's an anointing on Basio's life for the barber community. Whenever Basio and I first started talking, you know, we would have conversations. I hope you don't mind that I share this. And he would question, like, man, I don't even know if there is a God. And we had conversations where now it's changed and shifted things inside of him, where now I hear him saying, man, that's a God thing. Matter of fact, when we were together this weekend, we had a conversation, and he was like, bro, he said, we had people coming up to us, hey, do you mind if I pray for you guys? And they're laying hands on us at Barber Expos and praying for us. I mean, it was cool stuff. And then Basio, we were having a conversation, and he's like, bro, I'm just trying to figure out a way how we can make this God thing sexy, where people in the barber community, where they and really the world, you know, but that's our mandate, that's our mission field, the barber community, he's like, how can we make it sexy so these young guys can look and say, man, I need God in my life if I want to be blessed. And what I love about Basio is he has a great marriage. He's a great father. You know, we have so many things that you know, our visions and morals align, and just listening to the change in the conversation from day one to where we're at now, it's such a beautiful thing. And I sit back and I'm like, God, you're actually using me to make some kind of an impact. And listen, S Crab Blends does not have to be the front man. Matter of fact, I don't even want it. You know, that's why I barely post. And people are like, when are you going to post on YouTube again? Like, we want some videos. I don't care. I mean, I do that for the people, not for recognition. I'm so satisfied, man, with being the second man, third man, fourth man, whatever. Just being there to raise the arms of the person who God has anointed for that time. And I really feel like God has really gifted and anointed Basio, man. He's given him a platform along with other people or whatever, but I'm called to, you know, I feel like I'm called to SOOO 45 and Basio and the team. So I pray for him. You know, I just try to be a you know, voice in the background or whatever, just encouraging him. And anyways, like we were together this weekend, and as soon as he came off stage, man, I'm just like, bro, I'm so proud of you. You killed that. Man, you killed that speech, you know, and then we went straight to from the stage to the booth, and he was telling people, hey, you know, like if you have any questions or anything, I'm going to the booth and you can come talk to me. Bro, there was a line there of people for 4 hours. I'm just sitting there and I'm making sure, listen, I could sit there and want to be the man, you know what I mean? Like, I'm S Crab Blends, you know. Who cares? I'm sitting there looking at him, and I see what he's doing. He's loving on people. He's giving people hope. He's encouraging people. And anyways, so then I'm sitting there like, how can I serve him? God's put me here to serve him right now. I don't know all the details. I just know I'm here to serve him. So I go up, hey bro, you thirsty? What you need? Let me grab you some water. And I'm making sure he's hydrated. After you know, 4 hours of standing there talking, and I'm just sitting there like, man, the line just keeps getting longer and longer. And it shows his influence and the power that he has in the barber industry. And anyways, I went up to him and I whispered in his ear. I said, hey brother, I said, listen, you need some rest too, because we had no rest. Man, our flights were all jacked up. We were up early. I mean, no sleep, and just working. And anyways, I said, listen, man, you need some rest, bro. Like, let me just tell the people, like, hey guys, you know, I got to take Basio somewhere, you know, whatever. And I say, you cool? And he's like, no, man, I'm cool. And he said, I feel bad if I don't talk to every last person. And that's his heart.
Wow.
And that's why people love him and honor him and respect him, is because he's willing to stand there for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours and just keep pouring in and just answering every question that he can and taking pictures and everything else. And someone asked him, Basio, why do you do that? And he said, you know, a lot of times it's easy to, whenever you know, look at the views or you look at the comments, to really, you know, even if you have over 100,000 followers, or I think he's got like 400,000 subscribers on YouTube or something like that. But anyways, it's easy just to get lost in a number. You know, I got this number. Right. But for him, whenever he's standing there talking to each person and they're like, man, you've changed my life. You know, just what you're teaching has blessed me and whatever. He's like, that's what inspires me, that, hey, this is for real. Like, I'm really making a difference in people's life. And anyways, I went, you know, obviously I got on this little rant or whatever and off topic, but I love it, man. I love to see people shine. They always say, man, why don't you, when we go to shows, why don't you get on stage so that way you can cut? People want to see you cut. And I'm cool with that, you know, and I'll do it if that's what they want me to do. But I love seeing these new guys, these up-and-comers that are hanging out at the booth, you know, and they want to be that guy, you know, they want to be Basio, they want to be S-Craft or whatever. I love seeing them on the platform, you know, because they get to go home and say, man, I was at the SOOO 45 booth, man, and I got to cut hair, and that was, you know, 10,000 people walking around or whatever. That's exciting, man. I just celebrate other people's victories and their accomplishments, and that's my passion, man. So I'm cool with being just not seen. However, I do believe even part of this whole, you said you've been trying to get with me for a year. I have, honestly, not to try to brag or boast or whatever, I've got hundreds of DMs of people trying to get on my books. I quit looking at my DMs because it's just, there again, it goes back to the pressure of like, do I need to answer every single person? I can't, and it'll drive me nuts. So I don't even look at it, so you may have been trying to reach out and us connect, and I haven't even looked at it. It was just the other day that Beam actually was like, bro, there's some people that I did an interview with. They really want to hook up with you. So I'm going to try to make that connection. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. So I am at a place now that I feel like God is saying, okay, it's kind of time to step up to the forefront a little bit. So that's why I went to this expo with Cali, with Basio and Cali. I usually don't like going to expos. I don't like going to shows. I don't want to be around, like in front of people. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with being the background dude, and I really feel like God is saying, okay, it's time to step up. So that's why, this whole interview came to be, and I said yes to it, and went to Cali this past weekend, and I'm sure I'm going to start doing more classes and shows and things like that.
I think that's a big step in what it is that you see as your purpose within. You say that you feel that you're to be to minister the barbering industry, be available in capacity to the barbering industry, and you and I, all three of us, know the barbering industry did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Funky, broken people within this industry.
Yes.
Don't have an outlet. They don't have any way to see things differently. No one's challenged their perception, right? They have their experiences, they have their life experiences, and then they have this thing that they're good at, and they're trying to gain that thing. And a lot of times people jump into barbering because it's a temporary escape from a permanent reality in most people, right? So with you being the person prepared to step in and fill their role and be that for the industry, is unfortunately you're gonna have to be in the front more.
Yes.
That's the answer to you guys' questions. How is it sexy? Well, you put one of the dopest people in the industry on it, and you allow him to convey the message.
Absolutely.
People within this industry, they may not know your story, may not know your background. They may not know you as the person, but I can guarantee you they know your work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nothing about that sits in the back. That speaks real loud.
Yeah. It does.
I appreciate it.
Make it sexy, right? Because your work, at least speaking in the sense of getting the message across, the people practicing within the industry, right? The work gathers the attention. The attention is always going to come with the ears. The eyes can't go where the ears are, right? Mm-hmm. Together. And as soon as you open your mouth like you did on this podcast, it's impossible to ignore what's coming out of your mouth. It's impossible.
Amen.
And this is no shot at nobody. We've talked to a lot of people. We've communicated with a lot of people. I can only recall 4 in my mind. You being one of them 4 that when you talk, I don't want to. I just want to hear. I want to listen. Right. It's insane because I'm a talker, bro. Like I'm telling you, I got I go outside and talk to these trees. If ain't nobody, I'm myself, and above all, I talk to God all the time. All the time. But it's rare that I listen to people that have something to say that's not trying to convince me of something or sell me on something.
Yeah.
Listen to somebody just genuinely, being transparent transparent, cracking the door a little bit. I think that, yeah, that definitely sounds like your call. And who better to lead that charge than somebody who's already established and understanding how much grace, humility it takes to be that? Because a lot of people, they move in that direction, but they don't understand. You have to have a lot. You got to leave a lot of room for people.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, people come from different backgrounds, circumstances. You know, you yourself come up from a very, very deep background. You know, you got some room to have some understanding. You got to have some compassion to know that, you know, everybody not going to hear the message. Some people are just going to be there because it's something going on.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll click. Right now, you probably planted 100 seeds that may not come to fruition for another 5 years. But when it starts to sprout, you can't stop it from growing. It don't work like that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So I want to pivot. You know, I love. We done went to church tonight.
Amen.
I just want to pivot. One of the big conversation Shies, I'm sure all of you know. Everybody wants to be that $100 barber, and you know, a lot of young guys step into the game, haven't paid their dues, and so you are one of those barbers that are blessed enough to be able to have that price tag, no matter who is in your chair. How? At what point in time did you know that it was time to step that to that price point, and how did you know when you know it was your time and that was your worth, and how did clients, especially those with kids, kind of take that?
So whenever I first moved to Tampa and I started working in Headlines Barbershop, I just assumed, because, you know, 20 years earlier, 25 years earlier, I was already making $20 a head. That's what I was used to. Whenever haircuts were $8 at that time, I assumed whenever I moved to Tampa from this, you know, there again, if I'm getting paid $20 in a little town of LaBelle with 4,500 people, right, 20 plus years ago, I just assumed whenever I moved to Tampa that haircuts were probably going to be like $50 a cut at least, all these years later. And whenever I showed up in the shop, started working, I said, so what's the shop prices? And they said $20 a haircut, $25 haircut and beard. Now this is Tampa, Florida. Now let me say this. A lot of people don't understand, like, you know, they'll say, why don't you charge more than $100? Because you got people in Cali that's charging $300-400 a haircut or whatever. $100 a cut in Florida is like $300 or $400 in Cali, let's say. The number's still around $20 a haircut or whatever. So whenever I came in, I was blown away because I was like, they're still charging $20 a haircut? This is ridiculous. But let me say this, instead of complaining, I submitted to authority. I believe there's a blessing in submitting to authority. I submitted to the shop owners. So the shop times are 10 to 7. I don't like those times, because if I can get in maybe at 8 and leave at like 5, then I got the rest of the day to chill with my family or whatever. I feel like from 10 to 7, I feel like that's your whole day. You can't go nowhere in the morning time, and by the time you get off, it's almost time for bed, you know? But because those were the shop hours, I respected and honored the hours and the team, you know, the owners who God put me under. So I submitted to their rules. The shop prices were 20 and 25. I submitted to the shop prices, and I was just faithful in doing that. And even I got booked out for months in advance at $20 a haircut, $25 for haircut and beard. And I came to a place where I just knew that I could charge more, but I didn't want to disrupt what Basio and them were doing as far as the prices and things like that. So one night, and Basio and I are great friends. He's my brother. I love him. And I hit him up probably like 11 o'clock at night. I said, bro, can I meet up with you, man? I need to talk to you. And he's like, yeah. So we met up. And I just told him, I said, I think it's time for me to leave headlines and go, start my own, maybe go to a studio or whatever. And he's got so much wisdom, man. But he said, okay, why? What's the goal? And as we begin to talk, basically I told him, I said, listen, man, at this time he created this Tomb 45 studio where he just had his own little spot, and he had creative freedom where he could come in and record cuts and charge what he wanted to charge, come in when he wanted to come in, leave when he wanted to leave. And that was sexy to me. And I just said, listen, I look at your freedom that you have, I want it. That's what I want. And I do not want to dishonor you or the rules that you put in place by wanting to come in late and leave early or charge different prices or whatever. And so I'll just go do my own thing. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to compete with you. I'm not trying to open up a barbershop. I just want to go to my own spot and have my own freedom, And he said, well, I'll tell you what if I said you could come in one day a month and charge $1,000 a haircut? Would you stay? And I said, yeah, I'd stay. And he said, all right, well, charge what you want, come in when you want. And I was the first one in the whole headlines, like organization that made that move. And I think that they kind of we're kind of watching to see how that was going to play out. And I was in a position where I was booked out months in advance, and I was able to raise my prices, and I had their blessing that I could come when I wanted to, leave when I wanted to, set my own hours, set my own prices. And I just continue to pay the same amount of rent. And not everybody can do that, but I was fortunate enough to be booked in advance. And basically, whenever I first raised it up, it went from like 20 and 25 to 30 and 35. And even to make that jump, I'm not even gonna lie, I was scared to death. Even though I was booked out months in advance, I thought, man, if I raise my prices, like I may lose people, and I did lose a few people. But what I found out is people that was tipping me like $2 on a $20 or $25 haircut, now they started tipping me $10. I was like, what in the world? So they were paying the new price and tipping more. And then I just continued to go up. So basically what I would do is I would look at the average price that everybody was paying me. So if I charged 30 and 35 and everyone was paying average with tip and everything was 60 and 65, I knew that's, if at least 50% of those people were, paying me that price, then I knew I could at least move up to that price. And basically if I lost half the people, at least I'm doubling my income, just from that. So it gives me more time, less people, whatever. And that's how I was doing it. And then one day the pandemic hit. We sat around for 2 months, just hanging out at the house, like everybody else. And at the end of the 2 months, my wife actually was like, she said, hey, why don't you quit cutting hair? And I was like, why would I do that? And we have different businesses and stuff that we do or whatever. And she said, I just feel like that you have been less stressed over these last 2 months. And she said, you've always taken care of us, and I make good money. I don't mind paying the bills, and you just work on other business or whatever. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, why am I so stressed? If I didn't even recognize it, but my wife did. And basically I realized that, at that time I was cutting, haircuts were 30 minutes, haircut and beard was 45 minutes. And I was booked from early in the morning till sometimes midnight, back to back to back to back to back. And if someone showed up late, my first appointment showed up late, it threw off my whole day, and I'm sitting here trying to catch up the whole time. And I'm over here seeing them glance at their watch. I was raised to believe that to be early is on time, to be on time is late, and to be late is totally unacceptable. I'm very, very strict with my time. And so whenever that happened, if I see them glance at their watch, even if I'm a couple minutes running behind, basically I start feeling that pressure and that stress, and I continue to, man, I'm sorry, bro, I'll be right with you. And I didn't want to say this dude was late, that's why I'm running behind or whatever. But I was trying, and I still want to make sure I give everybody a good quality cut because that's my reputation on the line. And anyways, and even if they were like, man, ain't no problem, don't worry about it, it still was a problem to me. So then, so because of that stress, I realized some things needed to change if my wife and my kids were picking up on it. So I began to think, okay, so my wife said, don't cut hair anymore. Now at that time I was doing like $65 a cut. And I thought, you know what if I raise my price to $100? And now this is why I had the freedom to take that leap and go to $100, because I knew if everyone left, my wife already told me to quit. She would pay the bills. that makes it a lot easier. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
And
boy, I said having that confidence that she not gonna be upset behind the decision.
yeah,
That's the battery in your back that
I'm
you need, right?
telling you, bro, it took me to a whole nother level. So I was like, hey, if they all leave me, that's fine. I'll go. I still got these other businesses I'll focus on, and my wife said she'd pay the bills, and which I can't let a woman pay the bills for me, man. I'm sorry, but she makes more money than me, and I thank God for it, and I celebrate it. But I still gotta work. I'm just old school like that. But anyway, so I went ahead and I said, you know what? I bet I could really alleviate this stress if I was an hour haircut and an hour and a half haircut and beard. It would give me time to just really, I love the art of it. I love the relationship aspect of cutting hair. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna raise my price and see what happens. And I thought I would probably lose a lot of people. I may have lost one or two people if that. But people just stepped up and started paying. And yeah, so I was booked out for a year at $100 a haircut. And what's funny is as soon as the way I set it online was I made it all exclusive. Exclusive, you know what I'm saying? There's some people, man, it doesn't matter. If it's exclusive, they want in, because they're just they're Gucci people. You know what I'm saying? They want the Gucci belt and all that stuff. So anyways, I try to really word things wisely as far as exclusive and taking my time just to focus on exclusive clientele and give them, just the time that they deserve for the best quality cuts that I can give. And it just gave me that time. Now I'm not stressed. I come in and I even set all prices 100. And some people are like, you should be charging more. I follow the leading of the Lord. He said $100 for a haircut, a lineup, a haircut and beard, everything. It's a flat $100. If you want an appointment with me, it's $100. And anyways, I'm not overly greedy or whatever. But now I can take the time that I want to focus on the relationships, to focus on the art of barbering that I love. And I'm getting paid well. Honestly, I could make a whole lot more money. I looked at it and I was like, you know what? If I make $2,000 a week, I'm good with that. Man, that's good for me. So I was like, you know what? I work 4 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday. And my goal was like, I just want to cut 5 heads. If I can cut 5 heads, and some people tip me or whatever, I can make over $2,000 a week, and I can chill and just relax and just enjoy my time and have time for other people or whatever. And I still haven't hit the goal of 5 people a day because I have way more. I would like to kind of whittle it down. But so basically I'll probably do like, 9 or 10 heads a day or whatever. But sometimes more, sometimes a little less. But I was telling people the other day, now that we have the 6-figure barber mentorship program Bassio's doing, I see some of these young guys, man, coming in, knocking out 30 heads in a day. And yeah, dog, ridiculous. I don't want to be on that level. Don't want to be there.
Hey.
I used to do that when I was young. Don't want to do that no more. But I was like, I could come in and knock out 15. You know what I'm saying? I could come in and show these young bucks what's up. You know, and so I did open up here recently. I was booked out for 2 years where I wasn't taking anybody else. And just here recently, I opened up my schedule and I just added still the same days. I just added, say, like Thursday night where I would try to leave, you know, early. Now I leave at like 8 o'clock or something. Friday is sacred. I'm leaving at 6 so I can go be with my wife or whatever. Saturday, I usually leave like 2. I move that to like 4 o'clock. You know, so, and I just kind of mirror my wife's schedule anyways. That's kind of her hours. So I just followed that. I was like, hey, if she's going to be at work, then I'll be there too. And then when we get off, we're all together at the same time. And anyway, so that's been a blessing, man, because I've added more people to my schedule. It's been trying to get on for quite some time, and it's a pretty thing. I like it. I like it.
That's what's up.
That,
Congratulations.
that's inspiring. Let me just put that out.
Thank you, sir.
I think something that you said that stick out to a lot of bars, especially a lot of people that's listening to me right now. When you first come into the bar, the fire is burning so rich in your belly that you want to just hit that wall 100 miles an hour forward. Like I want to get as much out of this industry and as much out of this experience as humanly possible. I want to learn everything, talk to everybody, do these haircuts. You go through all the emotions. As you, like you said, I want to also go back to your season of burnout before we let you go, because we've been on.
Okay.
But
Right.
as you start to feather your way into that burnout feeling, I think a lot of guys, especially guys that got a little age on us like we do, realize doing 50 heads a day sound good. Average doing 100 heads a week sound good, right? As you get older, you start to think, what can I do to make around about the same amount of money where I can continue to be financially able for my family, and I don't leverage my ability to financially provide for my family, but I can also increase my ability to physically be available to my family. What can I do to make that transition so that I can lessen the workload and at least, bare minimum, keep the pay scale the same?
Absolutely.
Great. But if I can't increase it and I can keep it where it is, but I can decrease the workload, awesome. I would love to, at some time when you get some more time, have you come back up, speak specifically to that, because I think that's one of them things that a lot of barbers in this industry, a lot of beauticians, they struggle with in this industry. Oftentimes they don't make their realization until they hit that wall of burnout. And you've done the damage to your back. You've done to your feet, to your knees. You've done the damage to the relationships. You've done the damage to your relationship, spouse, your children. You've done so much damage getting to that point. And I do feel like there is a way to plan for it, prepare for it, and understand that you can start making those transitions even early in your career, your journey. So I would, if at all possible, I would love to have you come back on and talk specifically to that, because I think it's a lot of people who stand to benefit from that conversation.
Okay.
So everybody, of course, following us. It's the I Cut My Way Out podcast. We're on with S. Craft, S.Craft. Thank you guys for joining us. We're not going to keep you on much longer. Got, for me, just a couple more questions. I don't know about Shy. We'll also end up with our question that everybody.
No lie, no exaggeration. When I get off here, I got about maybe 7 questions I want to write down. Just things, just toss it out your way. And like I said, I'm gonna be praying, and I'm praying, and you got a connect line with the Lord. My wife got a connect that at some point we can have you come back on and we could touch on those more specific.
Absolutely. Hey, really quick. You guys take 2 seconds to speak amongst yourself real quick. I'm getting old, so my bladder doesn't hold things as good. I've been drinking this juice. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back, all right?
Oh,
Great conversation, man, in regards to the different perils of barbering, man, the different ways that barbering affects you as a person, the different ways that, you know, a lot of us go through that burnout. Have you ever been through days in barbering for you?
hell yeah.
Really?
Hell yeah.
What was that like?
Man, I mean, I've been through it more than once. What I found, for instance, what we're doing now, that was part of that for me, right? Is finding that inspiration. Mm-hmm. So we got on here and, you know, me and Jinx started off, it was inspiring. So when I'm bringing you guys on here, and then when we, you know, brought this together and you said, let's go live, this is inspiring to me because it allows you to walk into the lives of others and see how they deal with the same things that we deal with, right? And so it gives you ideas and, you know, to be able to bounce around is part of what keeps me going. When we go to the shows, you said, what are signs of burnout? So for me, at times, I don't fit, like, when you go, sometimes you're hyped up, sometimes you know when you're hitting that burnout because you're just not excited to do it every day the way you were, right? You know, that's one of the big ways for me. And then the wear and tear on your body and those things. So listening to somebody like S Craft and all the other people and, you know, what you do, it keeps me going because this lets me know that there's no ceiling. There's always somewhere else to go. What Basio is doing, how he took from, you know, being behind the chair and building different platforms, and, you know, whether it's financial piece, the six-figure barber thing, you know, it just lets me know that that's the inspiration for me. So when I hit that wall, you know, those are the things that keep me going. Another thing I did for myself, to give that time back to my wife, because, you know, for 22 years, I was working every Saturday. I don't work any Saturdays anymore. So I give that time to her, and then every other week I do the VIP service for my clients. So it just allows you to also be creative and flexible. So those are kind of the things that keep me going.
And I would say, Brad will cut it. That's a great question, man. I think a lot of people, until this conversation is held, right? Until something of this conversation is held around barbers in whatever portion of their career that they're in, a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think, what are the signs of burnout? The biggest sign for me personally that I would say keep your eye out for is pay attention to feel when you start barbering. Pay attention to how you feel when you start building your clientele. Pay attention to feel when you start to see your blends come together and your lines getting straight. And then pay attention, most importantly, to when all that changed. Right. When you get that feeling no more, when you go into the shop, you have that feeling of, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like being here. When you wake up in the morning, you got to put your feet on the floor and look off at the wall for about 6-7 minutes to motivate yourself to get up and get ready to go to work. Or you look at your schedule and you looking like, oh my God, I do not feel like dealing with these people. Things are early that you may be potentially at that point. I wouldn't necessarily say burnout, but you may be at the point where you're putting too much on your plate at one time. You're overwhelming yourself. You haven't created enough of a space where things have a systematic approach. You're throwing everything you can against the wall and what sticks. And oftentimes when you do that, a lot of times we create the conditions for our burnout because we don't have a systematic approach to doing things. We don't have an understanding that as bad as I want to cut 15 hairs a day, 15 hairs a day may not be the most productive thing for my style of cutting. It may not be the most beneficial thing for my lifestyle, right? Pay attention to feelings, and if any point it changes and your feelings towards the shop feel heavy, it's time to first take a few days away. Look at, if you do have systems in place, where are they working and falling short? If you don't have systems in place, this is a great opportunity and time to maybe start to breaks, schedules, apps. Make it doesn't require much hands-on communication. Make it where it's a self-serving process. You don't have to, again, like we talked about earlier, lend so much of yourself out to people, because even answering 100 questions a day is taxing on your emotions, it's taxing on your mind, and it's taxing on your. When the mind gets tired, the body follows.
No doubt.
That would be my advice. Mr. Doc, sir, do you have any on what do you believe are some burnout?
I think what you guys were saying was, spot on, man. I know that I think that there's good burnout and bad burnout, I guess I would say. I feel like when things are shifting and it's meant to shift, there is a healthy burnout as far as the sense, because either way you feel like you don't want to be there no more and you're sick of it. Sometimes, right, man, sometimes that sick of it feeling is God stirring up your comfort zone. I feel like just like a bird, when it's time to get out the nest, they were so comfortable. The mom starts, pulling out different things, making the nest uncomfortable, saying, all right, it's time to fly. Right. And I've seen that in my life where, God allowed me to become so uncomfortable with my present situation that it caused me to start looking at, well, what do I do now? I hate coming into the shop. And I started realizing my passion for ministry and full-time ministry and planting churches and things like that. But then it came to a place where I got to a point where I was like, boy, if I could just go back to cutting hair. Those were the easy days, man. It was so, you're not leading all these people. You don't deal with all the problems. You can just come in. And I started dreaming about cutting again. And then I was burnt out with ministry, but yet there was a fresh desire for me to get in the shop. And I believe that sometimes that's the way God speaks to us, to let us know we're entering into a new season. There's something shifting. So I want to make sure that, when I'm, evaluating my situation, is this something God's trying to do in me, or is it because I'm overworked and I need to set some healthy boundaries? And I believe we need to have boundaries. But at the same time, man, there again, if I feel like nothing is changing, this is where I'm at, I need to create those healthy boundaries, and I need to find things that make it fun again. There again, for me, it was giving myself more time to focus on the art of barbering. For that, it just, now I have a whole hour or an hour and a half where I can just enjoy the relationship with my customer. I can, focus on just the details. I'm a detail person. I love the details of a cut. So I'll move real quick through a cut just to focus on the details and to add some color and fibers and things like that. I enjoy that. But also there's times, man, just to give some, I guess, solutions to burnout is, for me, one of the things I love to do, and I'm very fortunate in this phase of my life that I have barber or clipper companies sending me new tools. But even if I can't, if someone doesn't send me new tools, I will buy new tools as an investment into myself, not just to have new tools, but it makes me want to go to work. When JRL sent me this new trimmer, I mean, it looks like the old trimmer. I don't know if y'all seen the video I just did, but it has two little holes in the back here, and you can use this little screwdriver right here, and you can just slowly turn it, and it'll move the blade to zero gap it perfectly. This thing is a game changer. This stuff makes me excited. So when I got this, it was on we had to fly out to California, and I couldn't wait to get back to go to the shop just to use this thing. You know what I mean? So for me, like getting new tools and stuff like that, like my wife may say, like, oh, you bought another new tool, you know, like how many clippers do you need or whatever. It's not that I need more clippers in the sense that, you know, I have clippers to cut hair with, but it just inspires me to keep going to work because I can pick up this thing and I could use it for, let's just say a week, maybe a little bit longer, but I mean, I get kind of burnt out on stuff pretty quick until I want something new. But a whole week, I'm sitting here like, all right, how can I get it, you know, like hitting better and you know, I want to use it and test it. I want to record a video and do all those things. This kind of stuff inspires me. So I always look for stuff like this on how to encourage me to want to go to the shop and cut, you know?
Absolutely. I think too, man, that's a great thing. These are the type of conversations I like having, right? It's okay. Somebody asked us, Miami Barber. We met Miami Barber at where were we at? Was it New Orleans?
Miami.
In Miami. And he said something that hit me right in my head and it stuck with me. He said, we asked him what did he want to see in a podcast? Like if he could put together his ideal listening, viewing podcast, what would it be? And he said, man, I would love to hear intriguing conversations about things, problems, and things that exist within the industry and outside of the industry. But more importantly, I want to listen to and see real solutions from the people having the conversation. I bring that point up because I love your perspective on that, because your perspective is, well, one, burnout can have two sides of it. It can be presented two ways depending on how you look at it. Right. Two, I'll tell you my idea of it, but also let me offer you some of the things that I use as my solutions to help me through that process. You know, when people ask me, and they ask a lot, man, what's the purpose of the podcast? What is a barbering podcast? And it's like, bro, it's a place where one, not just barbers and people within the industry can tune in and get, sorry about that, where people can get a perspective on some of them influential people within the industry, as well as people who are learning in the industry. But it's also a great place for people in general to listen, and you may pick up something that you can implement into your life.
Your everyday life, right?
Yeah. Quality living, because so many times we close our ears off to people because we don't think that they can understand our perspective because it's so much different in comparison. But we all living on the same earth, breathing the same air, interacting with people, and nothing on this earth hasn't been done or said before you. It has. Sometimes, like, I'll go back to the story that the young lady we had on last week. I told the story on another podcast last week, matter of fact, because it, again, people say things that stick with me so much that it's like, you know, that just touched me, and I think it can touch on. She told me the story of the starfish. Have you ever heard the story?
Of the what? What?
Story of the starfish.
No.
Okay, so here's a dope story, right? She said, the story of the starfish goes like this. There's a young man walking down a shoreline. And
that's by Kenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Littered with starfish. And she's picking them up. Well, he's picking them up, she's picking them up, throwing them out into the water. Picking them up, throwing them back in the water. Picking them up, throwing them back in the water. And there's an old man who's observing this young person walk up and down this beach on these starfish in the water. And it's so many, it's just overwhelming how many it is on the beach. So finally, the old man can't take it anymore, and he approached the young person and said, hey, let me talk to you for a second. Why are you spending so much time, wasting so much of your life throwing these starfish in here one at a time? Can't you see that it's an overwhelming amount of work? It don't matter how many of these starfish you get in the water, you're not going to make not one bit of difference. He said that the young man or the young lady looked at the old person and said, well, it makes a difference to this one. Picked up another water. That's the purpose of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just had to put that out.
No doubt. So, man, you've been on here for a while, man. I got one last question, man. We greatly appreciate you coming on, man, you being willing to come on, man, and spending your time and being transparent. Not only do you motivate and inspire us, but as you can tell, so many others. So everything that you're doing, even though you're not doing it to be in front, none of it is in vain. We're all watching and we're all inspired, man, and we appreciate it. Yes, sir. One of the other things that I noticed, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have a clothing brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that, you know, we like to do on here is also, you know, to get, you know, barbers and our guests to promote, you know, their brands and other things they're doing just besides cutting hair. So can you tell us about the one of 99, you know, and also where we can cop that?
Okay, so right now I actually took a little break with the brand.
Okay.
However, I have been trying to reposition some things to get back on it to make a greater impact. But I have an Instagram page that is it's 1/99, and I don't even remember honestly the exact way that I did it. But yeah, it's been a little bit, but that's one of the things that I've done, and it has been in my mind to continue to really push that. But the whole idea, and if you see on my elbow, I have the 1/99 on my elbow, and the whole point of that is, you know, in the scriptures you see Jesus talks about 3 lost things. He talks about the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. And anyways, with the story with the lost sheep is he was willing to leave the 99 found sheep to go after the one lost sheep. And some people would say, why would you leave 99 that are safe and secure and maybe risk losing one of those 99 to go after the one that's lost? But that's the heart of a shepherd. And God is concerned with lost things. And he's willing to leave the 99 to go after the one. And I know I was the one, you were the one. And so he's willing to 1/99. That's the whole idea of the clothing brand. And I have a lot of ideas with that. It got to a point where we had a lot of orders coming in, and obviously as barbering and doing all these things, and then we have the heat press and all the stuff that goes along with printing these shirts out. I was trying to set it up honestly for my daughters to kind of run with, and basically right now I'm trying to find a better way to just streamline the whole thing, so that way we can get it out there and still. It's more about the message than the money. Obviously, the money would be great, but a lot of people that resonate with that message, 1/99. You know, there's other people that got it tatted on them as well, so the logo and stuff, which I think is cool. But yeah, so that's the 1/99 brand. Be looking for it. I'll be posting some stuff here soon because I have been trying to put some things in a position where people can order and we already have someone that's doing the whole thing, and it can ship it out faster than we could do it and stuff like that. So it's been something I'm passionate about, but you know, there again, what we were saying before, we have to sit back and look at, you know, just the different systems and the boundaries and things like that. And it was kind of taken away and adding some stress. So we just had to figure out a better way to do that, you know, so it can bless others and bless our life.
You guys familiar with drop shipping and?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking into right now, where we will have the whole website, and they'll actually, so I can just keep funneling in the ideas and the designs and all that. They can print it, send it out, and you know, that's kind of what I'm looking into right now.
How God worked. We just had like an hour conversation for me. 2 ways. 1, me and Us just talked about that earlier today. 2, I just had about an hour-long conversation in the shop with it, and here it is. 3, now it's coming up again.
Yeah.
I'm a big person. Message, man. Signs. I pay attention to things. Nothing is coincidental, man. But with that being said, we got one more question for you.
Well, before you ask that question, I want to know when y'all are gonna send me out my "I Cut My Way Out" T-shirt and hat.
Oh man, we trying to get that all together. We doing
All right.
we putting together
Process. Do me a favor. Just DM me your size and
Extra large, baby, extra large.
okay. Yeah, just send me the information wherever you want me to ship it to, and we got you.
All right, sounds good.
I want to ask you this, man, and this is the question to leave everybody with, right? Now that you've been on, again, I know that we appreciate it, and I'm sure I can speak for everybody who got the opportunity to hear you and hear your message. More importantly, appreciate it. Great. Now that you've been a part of this experience and you provided an experience for us, if you could see or hear anyone else on the podcast delivering their message or delivering their experience or opening the door for the next opportunity for the next person, who would you like to see? Two-part question. So before you answer that, second part of that question, you have got to help us get that person.
So I'm pretty sure I picked up on what you were saying, though it was breaking up a lot. So the first thing is, who would I like to see on here, and who would I help get on here?
Absolutely.
Has Basio been on here yet or no?
Briefly.
Not yet.
You said
we talked to him at CT.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be, but we haven't been able to connect. I shot him an email, but hadn't heard back, so I don't know if it went to the right place. But he's definitely one we would love to have on.
So, there again, I feel like if you look at, someone said something the other day. They said, I think it was Wavy Kid Kev said, if you could have your top 5 barbers, or whatever, who would they be or something. And I was tagged a lot, fortunately, man. I'm grateful for that. But someone made a comment and they said, you can see what circles people follow by who they're saying, So you have obviously people that follow our circle, and you'll have S-Crap Blends and Get Beamed or Poppy Beam, and you have Basio and stuff like that. And then you have the other circles with A-Rod and all them, and, Los Cut It and stuff. So with that being said, I feel like there is circles, I feel like there's groups, and my group, I feel like, is ordained by God. I feel like I'm put in the right place, with the right people at the right time. And I know that I'm called, may sound weird, but I know that I'm called to 2 and 45 and Basio in particular. And so we have amazing conversations. And, there's a lot of religious people out there that would maybe hear some of the things that Basio says and even question, his faith or his, just a lot of things. They would question, his perspective, and I don't know if that's biblical or whatever. And so many people, they call themselves Christians, they're so quick to judge and they see from a religious perspective. But man, I've had deep conversations with Basio, and I sit back and I'm blown away by how he thinks. And I know that he's not the most religious person in the world. He even asked me one time, he just called me, he was in like Rome or something. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he called me and said, I got a question for you. I'm like, what's up? And he said, why do you think it's a sin to cuss? And it was so crazy. Like, I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? And he's like, you don't ever cuss. And I said, I feel like the Bible says you know, to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, that there's certain things that are convictions. I'm not going to put my convictions on another person, but I know what God convicts me of, and I believe words are so powerful, man, you know. So I want to, you know, the Bible talks about that we'll be condemned or basically saved by the words that will come out of our mouth, you know. And so I don't like coarse joking, you know, or crazy joking, perverted crap or whatever. And I don't like cussing. And now everybody has their own thing. Now I'll sit there, I'll listen to people cuss all day. Don't bother me a bit. I'm a grown man. I ain't got a problem with it. I just can't say it out of my mouth. That's my own personal conviction. And he was like, you don't cuss. And Basio cusses a lot. And you know, we had a conversation. He said, you know, like we were talking about the definition of cussing. And he said, if I said F you, according to the dictionary, that would be a cuss word. But if I said Michael Jordan's the effing GOAT, according to the dictionary, that would not be a cuss word, you know. And so he thinks very deep on things. And so even if he says Jordan's the effing GOAT, he doesn't think that he said a cuss word, but he's not going to, unless maybe you make him really mad, he's not just going to come out and say F you, because he believes that is a cuss word. And anyways, but we're quick to judge people from the outward. The Bible says that man, you know, looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And I've taken the time, man, to just really look at Basio's heart. And I'm just amazed at how pure his heart is, man, and how much he loves people. Even like I said, standing in line for 4 or 5 hours just to make sure every single person got to talk to him. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, that means a lot to me. That shows his heart as a servant and just his love for people. And I believe that's God-given, you know, and, you know, everybody has their own salvation that they have to work out. And so I love the way Basio's mind works. I love the fact that while many of us in the church world or in the world, you know, we don't question anything. We just do whatever they tell us to do. Right. Yes, sir. No, sir. Whatever, you know. Basio's like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why do we got to do it this way? And that's what makes him so special. And I love to just listen to how his mind works, man. That's why I love him and respect him so much. But that's who I would say you need to have on, because, you know, he's the person I'm around pretty much the most, I guess, in the industry. And yeah, I would definitely, you know, push to get him on. Like, hey, this interview you got to do. So we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely, we appreciate that, man. And again, man, we thank you, and we appreciate it, man. We thank you know, your family, the wife, because we know we're taking time away from the family, but this.
I think my wife and kids were on here watching.
Yeah, I see.
They might be the whole 19 people that's on here. I don't know.
I seen it. And so we thank them, man, and timing was right, man. You extremely transparent. You gave us your story, man, and we appreciate that. Again, inspire, you motivate, man, and this is what we're here to do. You're definitely you're an example of cutting your way out. You know what I mean? And that's what this podcast is about, you know, and we can all relate one way or another, man. So everybody that jumped in and watched and stayed tuned in, we appreciate you guys. We do this every week at 7:30 on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, man. And we're going to keep coming, you know. We'll be in contact. Hopefully you can throw us that oop with Basio, man.
Yeah.
And this is dope because we had Kenna on, we've had Beam on, man, and you guys are just really all have been super solid, man. We appreciate it.
No problem. Well, let me say this, man. I just appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the invitation. I had a phenomenal time tonight, man. You guys have amazing questions. I love your heart, man. You can tell just the purity and just, you know, the realness that you guys have. And thank you so much for giving us a platform to allow people, you know, maybe those people that kind of follow us because of the cut thank you for giving us an opportunity to go beyond just what they see in a cut and really get to expose our real selves. And the reality is, you know, a lot of people, they'll watch a YouTube video because of the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll have thousands of views on a cut video, a barber tutorial. But if I share my heart, you know, or just want to talk about what, you know, leadership or anything like that, it might get like 1,000 views, you know, versus, you know, 100 or whatever, and 100,000. And I just feel like, man, people got it backwards, you know, like if you could find out, look beyond the cut to the person, you know what I'm saying? And there's something that person has learned that will, you know, give you value and it'll take you to another level, you know? And, you know, so I just appreciate, you know, you guys saying it's more than a cut, you know, like what's the story behind the cut and just the lessons that you've learned. And I believe if people listen to this show, man, and they hear just, you know, those lessons, it can really change their life and elevate them, you know? So I appreciate y'all for creating a platform. And I know that I don't think we broke 100 tonight on the views. If it was Basio, it might happen. But I will say this. Keep being faithful in what you're doing, because it will come. And I do believe this. I was telling somebody recently, and I feel like y'all both are men of faith or have, you know, that as a background or whatever. I feel like I was telling someone recently, and I feel like this is why God is telling me it's time to go ahead and start stepping closer to the front, is because there is a shift taking place. And I believe this is prophetic. There's a shift taking place. I said earlier where the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our God. This is a kingdom. There's different spheres of influence that represent kingdoms. We have a sphere of influence in the barber community, where obviously thousands of barbers follow other barbers. It's just a community. It's a kingdom. And God wants to take over this kingdom, and he's put us in a position to be the voice for him in this sphere of influence, this kingdom, and to give it back to him. And what I've noticed is God spoke to me and said that there are voices who he's given people platforms and influence, and people are like, oh, that's my favorite barber. And they don't even know that these people serve the Lord, that they have a relationship with God, that they pray. All they see is he's cool and he has a platform and he's got thousands of people following him. But we're going to start seeing more, man. I just want to thank God. And you're going to start seeing those things come out where God is brought up, you know, to the forefront. And there's going to be some shifts taking place where a lot of these younger barbers that look up to us, they're going to be like, man, there's like, I need God in my life. And I believe that's not just happening in the barber industry. It's going to happen all over. But God has just given us influence in the barber industry to help promote that. And so we're going to see some change take place. And people are going to get beyond the cool haircuts and designs and the Photoshop and all that crap. And they're going to say, I need what they got, you know, and we're going to point to God, man, and Jesus to me. You know what I'm saying?
So,
yeah. Always substance behind them haircuts, man. Hey, but people like yourself to show, and I love that question that Voxio asked, that being outwardly vocal about your love and dedication to God is that's what it's gonna take. You're right. It's gonna be it's already happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. But
we appreciate. And before we go ahead.
Thank you to your family, because that's important. That we understand that every minute you spent with us was Christ with you. So we do appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
As I leave, I'm super geek, man, because sometimes, you know, Shy's held me to the fire, man. We're gonna do this every week. We gotta stick to it. And sometimes, you're like, man, you know, because we know we have something beautiful here, and it's here for a reason. And for you just to reassure us of that, that was a good feeling, man. We appreciate it.
That was that battery that we needed for real.
Amen. Amen. Well, I mean, I feel God all over it, man. I feel like it's a God thing. So I appreciate, you know, just the opportunity to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. So this full episode in its entirety will be available next week for all those who joined in late. Also, don't forget to shoot me in the DM, shoot me the location. I'll make sure as soon as we get those, they're in process now, so we'll get them to you.
All right.
As a token of our appreciation, bro. We appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all, man.
Right. All right. Peace and have a great night, man.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Peace out.